Third session. The topic of this session is India's first e-highway is upgrading itself to become net zero by solar. The session is powered by NHEV. And to commence the session, can we have on stage none another Mr. Abhijeet Sinha, National Program Director, Ease of Doing Business Project Director, NHEV, DIISHA Drone Pilot, President CPOs of India. Along with that, can we have Subhajit Roy, founder editor of Mojo for Industry. Can you all together give a huge round of applause? A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abhijeet, for joining us for this fireside chat today. And it's a wonderful occasion, actually. We see lots of technology being showcased in this platform of REI. And moreover, there is a focus on electric vehicle clean mobility, and where you have the expertise and you have done lots of work in that particular field. You have done pilots as well. So to start with, as you know, you are the program director for Ease of Doing Business also. So let's keep this interaction focused on ease of charging electric vehicles, sir.
Absolutely.
Right, sir. To start with, sir, what is the current status of charging infrastructure today in India, if you have done any study or so?
So, thank you, Subhajit, for having me here, and I would love to throw some light on actual ease of doing business that people have when it comes to setting up a charging station and doing the business operations the way it should be, with a kind of urgency we have altogether around us for net zero, for environment, for climate. That is not going to be very easy. That is not going to be very, rosy, because if we do not consider, if we do not recognize the difficulties of doing business in this business, then it is very tough and it is very, unrealistic to hold a conversation which speaks about and which chooses about to go for a period, which go for a revamp, where a site of ease of doing business has to be there. And to include it and to conclude it, it is very evident to give you a complete outline of how ease of doing business has to happen, how ease of doing business has to create its infrastructure. My understanding of charging infrastructure in India is not in a very smooth, a very speedy process. It was a very difficult process when we started the conversation and the pilot on ease of doing business, the National Highway EV. Today, even after providing the detailing of a charging station, the financing of a charging station, how does it work, how much it earn in comparison to a petrol pump, we are yet to get a tag, which I would say a priority funding of infrastructure tag in this sector. And until and unless we do not create it, we are dependent on couple of possibilities, couple of chances. You can say CSR, some philanthropic activity. You can say some startup funded. Are we going to leave such a big national transition on the dependency of somebody would look into it as a opportunity to invest into it, or it should be a priority round of funding? Definitely not.
Right. So can we say that despite making such policy announcement, incentives, we are still, that electric vehicle industry is still on a bumpy road?
Policy announcement, I would say there has been plenty. There has been many. And when we are doing policy announcement, we have to be one step ahead the industry. If we look at the current support which we had for the transition of electric mobility, do we have support for fleet operators? Definitely not. Do we have support for a charging infrastructure setup? Definitely not. The viability gap funding, which is bringing electric mobility, charging infrastructure setup on a priority tag, definitely not. What we managed to deliver on the policy support tag is a policy support for manufacturer of electric vehicle. Do we have policy funding or the policy level requisition few years back before PLI scheme and before other advanced chemistry cell to manufacture batteries in India? Definitely not. So when we talk about policy support, policy has to go at least in these sectors a bit ahead than the transition. Or else what will happen that we will create a push for policy. We wanted a policy for battery swapping, and that battery swapping policy would have reduced the cost of electric vehicle equivalent to a diesel petrol vehicle because somebody who will buy a vehicle will not buy it with battery. So definitely 30 to 40% cost of the vehicle is going down. But battery swapping policy, despite of all efforts from Niti Aayog and other stakeholders to bring it into execution, only draft as of now has been finalized. So I believe that the policy support where you have to pull up industry to reach to a place where you want all of us to reach together has to be more comprehensive, more collaborative, and more consultative instead of being one-sided or to be focused on one of them. I'm not condemning why manufacturers are getting, but our fleet operators who are running vehicle are not a part of the prerogative. Have we managed to reduce or exempt the toll of electric vehicle? If it is passing, no. Have we managed to reduce the national permit of electric bus or electric car? No. Then the policy is something which I would believe that if you want to pull up a nation like India to be on the green transition track, then policy will have to lead. Policy should not be coming when industry is bleeding.
Very well said, sir. So time and again you spoke about there are policies for manufacturers incentivizing for them. But what about an individual who is going to use per kilowatt power, or even when you compare it with the conventional fuel or something? So you always spoke about that. So do you think that something needs to be done on that way, also practical case studies on end users as well?
Very, I think, technically required question for industry to answer right now. What is per kilowatt hour today for dispensing into an electric mobility? If it is generated through solar, it would be different. If it is generated through thermal grid, it would be different. If it is generated through wind power, it will be different. And if it is generated through a stationary storage which is on the station, then it will be different. So reaching out to a person who is going to use the vehicle, and as a user he is using an electric vehicle and going to buy that power from a charging vendor, a CPO, it is very important for all of us to give the most convincing and the most comprehensive way of generating and dispensing this power. And what it could be a solar, it could be a wind, it could be a nuclear power. In each of them, if you invest, then only you will be able to reduce the total cost of ownership. Or else, it would be very difficult for all of us to tomorrow justify that why we are reinventing the wheel again and again. Today, we are making a normal highway into national highway. Then national highway to electric highway to national expressway to electric corridor. And then it will have intelligent transport management system and what not. So instead of doing this into different lakes and different cultures, why don't we look at it making a green highway, a greenfield highway, a highway which is also incorporating the comprehensive communities and resources around. It is also having a dispensing capability of using a renewable power storing on the station, on the vending points, and then dispensing into vehicle. It may increase the per kilowatt capability today, but it will give you a result that in next 10 years, if you are investing into such infrastructure, you are going to be relevant, you are going to be actually credible and related to the industrial, economical, and the surface transport transition you wanted. Or else, it would be a different game altogether to start and then regenerate. Today we are talking about electric mobility, tomorrow we'll talk about hydrogen. So are we going to restart the infrastructure development for hydrogen again? Definitely not. So that is why NHEV has brought the fuel for future. And this fuel for future is not only electric, it is also hydrogen, it is also flux fuel, it is also ethanol. So all those fuel which are reducing our carbon footprint and emission, we need to create a space for a storage, vending and business ecosystem to dispense that to the future vehicle which are not very far to come.
So do you suggest that Ministry of Power, Ministry of Road Transport, NHEI, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, these all should work together in tandem to actually energize our highways?
So Abhijeet, that was the idea when we started National Highway EV pilot. We understood that it would be a multi-ministerial project and we will have to work with different stakeholders, not only from the ministerial side, but also from the within of industry. We all will have to work together to deliver something which is giving India a slowest possible reduction or the slowest possible, depreciation on the asset and the highest possible speed of the transition. And to achieve this, we will have to keep our model modular, that our comprehensive model which we have created for adopting a new fuel to adopting a new vehicle is a work which happen between 30 to 40 days. You bring me a new bus, we will install couple of chargers, that bus is on board. You can use this bus for traveling between the start point to end point. And to create this, all stakeholding ministries like Ministry of Power, Ministry of Road Transport and Highway, Ministry of Science and Technology, and the Ministry of Heavy Industry, they all need to come together and work so that what we create, it does not go out of fashion, out of work and out of technical competence for at least next 20 years. And when we talk about next 20 years, we are definitely talking about a commercial transition, viability, the utilization, ROI on the investment, and the break-even of each and every asset which is being deployed on these charging stations. So all of them, I'm glad that we have been highly supported, and all support which government wanted and we wanted from government has been in a very spiritful and very enthusiastic exchange. And all of this together is creating India's advancement towards electric mobility, towards e-highways, which is, if you compare globally, there are two countries I can name because it is in the public domain, that Sweden and Germany are two countries who have the highest technology electric corridors. And both of them, their investment per kilometer is 22 crore rupees per kilometer. When we concluded our trial, our per kilometer cost only came 1 crore rupees per kilometer. So if you look at the timeline which we took, if you look at the technology, our highways are not saying you have to have a vehicle which have to have an extended arm to touch the pantograph line. Our highways are saying you have to have a vehicle which can be charged on this highway. It can be a personal vehicle, it can be a commercial vehicle, it can be a utility vehicle, any of this sort.
So as we all acknowledge, there is no dearth of technology today. And at the same time, government has also shown its intent to deliver. And you have also done case studies or the pilots. But still we don't have a success story in that particular area. What is stopping us?
Yeah, success story in which area?
In electrification of national highways in a larger way. Like.
In a larger way, if you say success story of electric highway, then you will see India and Germany doing these trials together.
Right.
We have conducted 2 trials. They have conducted 3 trials. If I can quote data, their first trial was 500, second trial was 12 kilometer, 5 kilometers, second trial was 12 kilometer. It was between Frankfurt and some airport nearby. India was doing trial on a larger basis, I'll say. When you say success story, you can quote trials as a success story because the vehicle which are running on these highways are still there. We have not pulled them back. Delhi and Agra was the first trial in 2020, 2021, which we concluded. It came out with amazing results, impactful, successful, and I can say a turnaround game changer results, because you may sitting in Delhi or Noida, assuming I would get a pizza in 30 minutes. Sometime it is possible, sometime it is not possible. But in each case, when we conducted this trial, an electric vehicle which is running on these highways, if they shut down, they are bound to get a technical backup within 30 minutes. Maybe you have a petrol car or diesel car, you may spend another 1.5 hour or 2 hours to your backup to reach to your breakdown position. But in electric vehicle case, we managed to bring it. Second is a successful part which is very close to all of you is everyone want to buy an electric vehicle. But why they are not buying is because of two reasons. One, I have already addressed that if you are on highway, you shut down, what will happen to you? And second is, how do we do that the vehicle which is landing to your pocket should be comparatively cheaper. So if I am able to give you a vehicle in 40% lesser price, you will be more than happy to own a vehicle, because will be very close to petrol. And on petrol, you are spending around 4,000 to 5,000 rupees for one tank fill. In electric, you are spending only 400 to 500 rupees for one time full charge. So definitely the long-term total cost of ownership is less. And if you are getting the vehicle on a lesser price, then it is going to be a game changer. That is what NHEV achieved in a very pragmatic way by giving the vehicle on the actual cost and the battery not included in the cost. Battery comes to you with the vehicle, but it comes on the subscription. So it also gives the OEM to create the replacement battery for that vehicle, and you are as an user or as a fleet operator is spending less time to do that. Third, which was very important for us to achieve, is how are we going to increase the utilization of these infrastructure. Exactly. If you do not increase the utilization of these infrastructure, you end up having a, you can say, business case where a parking wala guy is more profitable than the charging wala guy. And this is something which is unacceptable in all business ecosystem. So the utilization of a charger is minimum committed 30% was the great takeaway from NHEV relay resilience model. And it creates an amazing result when you look at economically. These charging stations become a wonderful business case of profitability, because they reach to break even into 36 to 40 months, which was the fourth condition. So technically, economically, as a consumer point of view, and from the overall ecosystem point of view, it proven to be a successful trial. If you want me to compare the Germany one, it has an overhead wire. You have to have a different type of vehicle. In winters, in snowfall, it will have a lot of problem on the wire because of the frosting. And then in the storm, wires may touch each other and it may create short circuit and the shutdown of the electric mobility on that highway until the wires are repaired. So these are the challenges which Germany was facing. India could not face much, but we'll be definitely having our own type of challenge.
Right. So congratulations on the successful
Thank you.
Trial of that. So by when we can expect that you replicate the result of what you have achieved across the country? Like
when we will be able to replicate?
Right.
Replication is something which we wanted, and I'm glad that it was very well taken by all our participating, supporting ministries. We started this with a target of only 500 kilometers in the beginning, to be only Delhi, Jaipur and Delhi, Agra. But with the blessing of all stakeholding partners, and when we, instead of going side by side with Germany, when we went for third trial, so Germany went into third trial, we didn't went into the third trial. We, instead of going to third trial, we revealed the competitive model of charging station that is going to give a challenge to tomorrow's petrol pump. So if you look at petrol pump ecosystem, there has to be detailing in the design, how they are created. there has to be a very smooth functioning of financing, and there has to be a detailing of how much it is going to create revenue in terms of earning. When we created our charging station model, it was gracefully, it was very honored to share that it was opened and it was revealed by our Honorable Road Transport and Highway Minister himself. And while understanding this, he said that it is going to be tomorrow's petrol pump. And not only technically, but also commercially, it creates a model for scale-up, which is a quick scale-up. If we are creating a model for tomorrow's petrol pump, and it is giving you detail of the design and the detail and the rule book which was missing, if it is giving the financing pattern of how do you finance an electric mobility charging station, which we call a third generation charging station because of the future fuels are also there. And third, if it is creating a complete earn, turnaround, utilization, monetization, break even and ROI for all investors, the scale up becomes very easy. So before we could sense that vision of that this pilot should not be only limited, we are thankful that all Road Transport Ministry and other participating ministry, they encouraged that it should not be limited to 500 kilometer and it should go to 5,500 kilometer. So we are looking at it by opening these stations for allocation by end of this year. Once each station is having a PPP mode, investors, or you can say allottee from the government and from the corporate and from peoples also, then it takes only 90 days to complete the construction and the other part. We are happy to share that most of the bigger problems were taken up by large government agency like land and power, solar. Most of these problems we as a piloting agency are not capable and muscle power to solve. But those agencies who are developing a nationwide highways and having more muscle power than us to create wayside amenities, they came forward, they given a lot of support in terms of land acquisition, in terms of all critical component of the project. And with the help of those agencies, we will be able to roll out a 5,500 kilometer wide, long and comprehensive e-network of e-highway, electric highway by maximum end of this year to be allocated on the pattern of PPP model. Once it is allocated, it will take 3 months for construction, 3 more months for final technical revenue trials and commercial trials, and then it will be open for it. So people, we do not stop them from using our vehicle. Even those 2 trials which we have conducted, you can go, I can go, anybody in the room can travel from Neo Go or Green Sail or Blue Smart. But full-fledged, if you look at it, within a year or maybe before that, it will be available for people's use in bigger and larger way.
That's huge coming from you. So sir, for this particular 5,500 kilometers of target, are you even taking industry also on board?
See, industry has been looking at it from a long time. And it was nearly, all targets which we picked up into pilot were nearly looking and sounding impossible. I'm very honest in my work. It comes from a passion without which you will not be able to contribute. In 2013, when we were campaigning for the new government, we were campaigning for a leadership who understand the role of technology in the business. So now when we do a pilot and we bring emerging technology to do business, it almost changes the way we used to do business in that particular sector. So industry may not be very confident until and unless these pilots are successful. And if we will pick up a very easy target of something which industry itself can do, then we will not do justice as a piloting agency. If I say that this is bound to happen and this will happen, and you also feel that this will happen, this is eventually in the process, then we are necessarily not doing a challenging pilot of an emerging tech. Then we have picked up an easy target And that easy target we are mapping and we are tagging as a pilot, is an emerging tech pilot we have done, and trying to take some pads and some credibility to us. So very rightly said, very right question, that industry was not very confident that this will happen. Infrastructure will come into priority lending tag. It will not happen. 33% uses in this country from day one to a charging infrastructure is not possible. I have heard all this, so I'm just sharing with all of you. In a country where a national average of a charger utilization is only 5%, we claim 30% from day one, which is likely not to happen. Energy efficiency of a station having a solar power configuration is capex wise will be impractical. That is nearly impossible. We heard about it. We taken it into account. We said that you will be able to take a backup within 30 minutes. When you shut down on highway with your electric vehicle, people said it's impossible. In world, nowhere, even in Tesla, backup community is not that revamped that they will give you a backup in 30 minutes. We were told it is not possible. Going ahead, we said the ecosystem of electric mobility would be 100% theft-proof. People said it, again, it is not possible. So when we refer that majority of them who are not part of such pilot, they largely believe these are impossible. But those who go forward and participate into these commercially emerging tech pilots, they strongly believe that we are going to change the game by the use of technology, by the geofencing, and by, I say, preferably in the electric mobility, that why don't we have vehicle like Europe? In Europe, you take a vehicle on rental in one country and you can roam around 3-4 more countries, and then you can give it back to some agency which is operating multi-countries. In India, if you are taking a vehicle into one state on rental without driver and you give it to other state, the operator is like whether I'm going to get my vehicle back or not. Only few places in Goa or in northern part of India, some places, we get two-wheelers on the rental basis without driver. Rest of the places, it is not possible because of the behavioral change, because of the recovery or anything which way you may look into it. But all these impossibilities from the industrial side, it is very, very challenging. And we are committed to bring down each of them and make an Indian electric mobility ecosystem world-class.
We believe, sir, that you are going to be a game changer and you successfully complete your 5,500 kilometers of target. And we would like to hear from you as a concluding questions that what's your vision for NHEV in 5 years or 10 years down the line after this 5,500 kilometers of target?
So our vision for National Highway EV is to create a scalable infrastructure, create an ecosystem which speaks for itself, reducing the footprint of government's investment into this transition, and increasing the participation from public sector, private people, individual, corporates, and those other fleet operators who are currently outside the ecosystem. If you look at the bus infrastructure of India, majority of bus services are owned by private operator. Only city bus services within the metros are owned by the government PSUs or STUs, state transport undertakings. But if we look at the transition of electric mobility, it is only happening in the government-owned sector. It is not happening in the other sector where people are running their own bus fleets. And to bring them into the main ecosystem, mainland transition, we have to create a certain limitation that they need a conducive, a very smooth single window clearance. We expect them too much. We expect too much from them. We expect a bus operator to not only run buses, but to also educate people and stakeholders to why they should switch to electric. We also expect a bus OEM to create a charging infrastructure in the ecosystem where their buses can get charged. Do we expect a bus operator to own a petrol pump in the diesel ecosystem? No. Do we expect a fleet operator who is running a fleet of Ola, Uber to own a petrol pump, gas station, fuel station? Absolutely no. Then why are we expecting these from an electric mobility which is increasing their book load, which is increasing their capital expenditure, and which is also increasing their viability of transition? As a country, we have to create an ecosystem where a fleet operator, a bus operator, a small vendor, an ecosystem delivery, ecosystem e-commerce, they all should feel happy, they all should feel supported and ease in deploying their next fleet into electric. So I look at NHEV as a process which has been developed for bringing more estates, more highways, more areas where there is no footprint of electric mobility, having this charging station, and not only doing a linear development from point A to point 5500 kilometer, but also doing a lateral expansion of electric mobility by having 22-wheeler and 23-wheeler on each station to do delivery across the area, to do e-commerce delivery, and also bringing fresh fruit and vegetable on the cold chain for supplying and supporting our farmers' income to double, to triple. Because right now, the kind of work which we have done, it is only giving a look that it is a linear development. It is not giving a look that is also a lateral development. It will only happen once the first leg of connectivity from peer to peer, point to point is concluded, then the expansion will be more visible. And to do all this, we have to create a policy, we have to create a nationwide comprehensive handshake stakeholder, multi-stakeholder challenge to convert on the basis of profitability, accountability and precision. Not only from the process of philanthropy, subsidy and support. It has to be a very good business case, and it has to be a continued profitable case.
That's really well summed up, sir. So we can see, or rather we wish that a sustainable electric vehicle policy will come into the picture, and the entire business ecosystem of electric vehicle will be a kind of commercially viable as well as sustainable.
And Subhajit, you keep on traveling to solar programs and the energy. I would say that at this stage of time, when we wanted our per kilowatt hour to be reduced, a support from Power Ministry in a direct and a bold, very bullish about having green open access to generate somewhere else and use somewhere else. This is the word which we would like to extend, and to all stakeholders who are involved through you, that we should create some awareness and some conversation about it, that it is happening and it is really happening.
Right, so we are committed to do that, sir. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Abhijeet Sinha, Project Director for EODV as well as Program Director for NHEV. Thanks so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you, Subhajit, and thank you all of you who are listening this conversation. And thank you, Renewable Energy India Expo, for giving us this opportunity to convert and converse with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And to acknowledge our panelist and moderator, we have something for you, sir. Please kindly stay seated. Everybody kindly stay seated, please. And Abhijeet, sir.